Hello everyone, I am Julia Austin, the Violence Prevention Coordinator and Advocate for Hands of Hope Resource Center in Todd and Morrison County. You can find us on our social media sites, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube to connect with us. All can be found simply by searching Hands of Hope Resource Center or going to the description below to find the links. You can also find us at our website, handsofhope.net. We are going to now jump right into our topic for the day, which is safety planning with youth. First, we are going to discuss what is a safety plan. Through a domestic violence lens, a safety plan is a strategy which involves identifying the steps one can take to increase safety. A safety plan helps to prepare for the possibility of further violence and provides guidelines to follow if one's safety is at risk. A safety plan can be developed for a woman experiencing violence in relationships or children and youth exposed to domestic violence. A safety plan also helps to draw a woman's or child's youth attention to the need for safety and helps to focus where the attention needs to be placed. Step 1 is opening the safety planning discussion with your youth. Keep in mind the following points when safety planning with our youth. Safety planning starts when the youth walk right into the door of the building. When greeting them, point out the emergency meeting locations and walk through the building, pointing out how to get out of the building safely. It's also very important to welcome the youth into your office and ask them why they are there. It's also really important to provide the information about your role and remember to discuss confidentiality and its limitations and the client's rights. Confirm that the youth are comfortable talking about their situation, and it's important to understand and recognize that our youth are more than likely coming to the situation with a prior idea of safety planning, and it's important to acknowledge that they might have their own techniques of keeping themselves safe. It's also really good to pace the work when you're working with youth and try to assess by observing and checking in with the youth to find out where that trust lies and how you can use that trust to move on to the next steps. Step 2 is introducing the concept of safety planning. It's important to describe what a safety plan is. We touched on this, the definition in the beginning of this video, but I'm going to reiterate that a safety plan is a strategy that involves identifying the steps for the child or the youth to take to increase safety. A safety plan helps to prepare for the possibility of further violence and provides guidelines to follow if there is safety at risk. Find out what the child or youth know about creating a safety plan. For example, most youth have participated in a fire drill at school, so for some ages it can be useful to start with that example and talk about the steps that are involved. Then you can move to applying the same steps to their own situation, home, community, and school. Explain issues of risk and safety in the context of domestic violence. To learn more about the youth, the differences between domestic violence, you can do research on the internet. You can go to our website, handsofhope.net, to find out more information. And it's also really important to affirm the youth that the violence in their home is not their fault. Encourage the child to pay attention to their feelings during an emergency situation. Where in their bodies what feelings do they feel? Encourage the youth to listen to these feelings as they are a sign that it's not safe to feel. Talk about the strategies such as breathing techniques and how to cope when the situation happens. Step 3 is listening to the youth and determine their experience and knowledge. When discussing the safety planning with the youth, it's important to find out how the child keeps themselves safe. Talk with the youth about not becoming involved when their parents are fighting and where they can go when this does happen in their home. Find out if the child knows how to call the police and what to even say when they do talk to the police. It's important to practice these situations. And also find out if the child has friends that they can visit when these situations occur. It's also really important to affirm what they have done in the past and talk about how they can build on those actions. What does the youth know about the violence in their home? This is something that's really important to gather information about, to understand their perspective of violence in their home and the history of domestic violence as well. It's also important to know that how they describe the violence, and how to identify for further references in the future to know the identifying warning signs for violence. Also, we want to inform our youth that it's not their fault that the abuser is taking action into the situation. And it's really important to remind the youth that the behavior of the abuser is never their fault. Step 4 is working on the core safety planning points. The core safety planning points for children and youth are adapted from the safety plans found in the research literature and from field practice in British Columbia. It's important to consider all the core safety planning points when working with youth, as they are depending on the youth's developmental level and their situation in the community that they work in. There's not a one-size-fits-all safety plan. Each safety plan should be unique and specific to the youth that you are working with. When developing a safety plan with your youth, incorporate the following points into their safety plan. Go to a safe place, try not to get involved, call for help, and know that you are not alone. It's important to know that it's not your fault and you're not to blame. And finally, domestic violence is dangerous and against the law. Step 5. Closing the safety planning discussion and summarizing the safety plan with our youth. It's important during this final step to affirm with the youth that what they are experiencing is not their fault and that they are never alone during these situations. It's also really important to discuss with the youth to have a copy of their safety plan on hand, and if appropriate, give a copy of their safety plan to someone that they trust, whether it be a social worker, a counselor that they're working with at school, or someone that they're really close to as a family or friend member. It's also really important during this final step to just summarize the overall picture of the safety plan and assure them that they are taking the next best steps to ensure their safety. Thank you all for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and check out all of our social media accounts down below. We would love to collaborate, connect, and support each other. Have a great day.